Okay, good evening everyone. As Martin said, I'm Mark Payne. I've been a member of the club for, not for very long, 2.5, 3 years, but I've been playing chess since I was the age of you younger members here. And tonight I'm going to talk about Endgames. There's been a few expressed that we could all do with some coaching on Endgames, because I think it's an area of the game that can be overlooked. When I was young, we didn't have digital clocks. We didn't have basically what we did was we played with a manual clock, and after 35 moves, an hour and a quarter, the game got sent away for adjudication. Basically, if you were a pawn up, you would probably win on adjudication. You did not have to play some of these things out. So I've recently found that I have to start learning how to play some of these endgames. So hopefully some of these lessons will be good for you. I'm going to start off quite basic. I'm going to introduce some very basic terms, such as the opposition. I'm going to talk about some slightly more complex terms. There's a nice German word called ZUGZWANG. We'll talk about ZUGZWANG. And we will also show, for those of you who are a little bit more experienced, looking at some of the people over here and maybe some of the people at the back, there are some slightly trickier things, but for those of you that think that that means they're going to be difficult, you'll actually find that there are still some concepts in the difficult puzzles that will be useful and you will learn. So you've all got one of these handouts. The idea is where there are gaps, you can fill them in with the answers as we go through, and then you've sort of got a playbook, if you will, that you can refer to, and who knows, we might do some more because there's certainly plenty of other lessons. As soon as this is being recorded, I should mention that several other positions come from a great book, albeit quite old now, 1980, by Leonard Barden, Play Better Chess. Very, very helpful. And even though it starts off with teaching you the basic moves, I'm still finding it helpful today. So just point that out. I should imagine this will take less than 1 hour. I'll certainly be aiming to finish before 8:30, depending on questions. Okay, so the first diagram we're going to look at is this one here. And I think that those of you that have been coming to the coaching sessions that we've had at Gordon School, I know will know some of these positions and be quite familiar with it. Okay, so we are going to look at this first position, so it is going to get harder from here. So with white to play, white playing up the board, white king, white pawn, black king. With white playing up the board, what's the first move that white should play? Isaac?
C6.
C6, yes. Anybody want to pick another move for white? No? Okay, so C6 check. I'm going to play, I still want to guard this square here, so I'm going to play here. Anybody else want to give me the next move? Yes?
C7.
C7 check. Right, now I can't go here. I think I'm going to go here. What's the next move? Yes?
C8 equals queen.
C8 equals queen. I won't put the queen on. And then you should be able to win the game from there. Okay? I think this is important as well. You should all try and make sure you can win with a queen and king against king. You should all make sure you can win with a king rook against king. And then, if you want to get really hard, two bishops. King and two bishops against king. Make sure that you can win those, because if particularly playing blitz online, you'll have people who never resign, and you will have to demonstrate that you can do those, win those end games. Certainly, without giving stalemate. Okay, we're going to move on to a slightly more difficult position. Sorry, I just wanted to point out as well then. So 1, 2, and 3, the answers are C6, C7, C8. This sort of idea here of this white king protecting these three squares is called shepherding, for want of a word. So basically the white king gets to there and shepherds that pawn home. So the word you're looking for is white wins by shepherding. Okay, so now we're going to look at this position here. No. Right. So it doesn't matter who is to play in this position, black or white, but either way, white can win this position. All right. So if black to play, I'm just going to play one move here, and move here. Ooh. Any idea what the next move is? Yes.
King C6.
King C6. Oh, right. Well, if King C6, I'm going to go here. Let's see. I'm going to go there. Do you want to play on from there? What would you do after
D6.
D6? Okay. I'm going to go here. What are you going to do next?
D7.
D7?
Yeah.
I'm going to go here. What are you going to do next? Right. So if you go here, stalemate, draw. If you move anywhere else, I'm going to take the pawn and to draw. So let's go back to that position and work out why that happened, and maybe what a better move will be. So I'm going to play this one. Anybody want to pick the best move for one? Yes.
King to C7.
King to C7. And do you see, without showing all the moves now, we've got the shepherding principle at that pawn. So if the king comes here, we have the same position as the previous diagram. The pawn goes check, there and there. Okay. Let's just show, just to show for completeness, if white is to play, then white goes here. Oh no, alright, well white can go there. And you can see here, black goes there. You do have to sometimes work these moves out. So now the king comes in here. The pawn goes there. The king now has to move to here. And then the king goes there and wins. Okay? Right. We're just going to look at another, so we're going to move on to lesson 2 now, and we're going to talk about something called the opposition. In this game, it's black to play, and the result of this, it could be one for white, or it could black can draw this position. So you've got to watch out for this. So who wants to suggest where black should go? What would you say?
If black wants to draw, I'd play E8.
You play E8. Would anybody play D8? Anybody play D8? Right. Go on. Well done. Yeah. So 2 people want to go for D8. Right. I'm going to show you. So if you go D8, white goes here. Now there are a couple of things here. White, first of all, has what's called the opposition. So if there's this one space in between the 2 kings, and white's just moved there, then white has the opposition because black has to move away. It also works, you can have sort of extended opposition, it can work on the diagonal as well, but the key thing here is white has the opposition. So white takes the opposition, black has to move either away or let's say to here. We then get the pawn, we then get the right. I move the pawn here, black goes there, and the white king goes in here. Okay? Okay, so I think we've shown that king d8 doesn't work, so we're going to go king e8. White's going to go here, for example. And this time black takes the opposition and moves here. So if I play check, The king goes here, and it's stalemate. If I don't play, if I play here, the same thing, happens. We just end up getting a repetition. At some point, this pawn has to move. The other rule to remember when you have this is if white's pawn has to give check when it reaches the 7th, then it's a draw. If white can get to the 7th rank pawn and there's no check, then it's a win. Okay. I'm going to give a sort of an exception now. So we're moving on to lesson 3, king and rook pawn versus king. Okay. Does anybody think that white is going to win this? So let's see, white's got an extra pawn. Anybody think white can win? No. Right. Basically, it's a draw because the king just moves backwards and forwards, and no matter what white does, you can't stop this. Now, if I, let's say, move the king here, he could move there, but he just has to do this. So at some point, let's say white gives check, he goes in here, and we have the same sort of thing. Now, the important thing about something like this that you need to know is at some point in the game, you might realise that if you exchange some pieces off as black, you might be a pawn down, but you might be able to ensure that you've got this position, and therefore you will get a draw. Okay. Right. I'm now going to show what would happen. So we're moving on to lesson 4, and we're going to show the rook pawn example. Right, and the bishop. Okay, so with black to move, I think we can safely say here that in this position it's the same as before, black covers the queening square. If it's white to move, if the pawn moves here, the king goes here, again it's a draw. Okay? So what happens if white has a bishop? So let's add a bishop. Okay, now oh, sorry, was the bishop? Bishop in the wrong place over there. Bishop here. So now white has got a bishop, and with black to play, anybody want to guess the result? Go on, what we say, Adam?
A draw.
A draw? Anybody think white can win this? Yes? Right. I'm black. Okay, so I'm going to go here. What would you like to move next? The ones who think it's going to be a win for white. Go on, what would you see?
1 to A7.
1 to A7. Check. I'm going to go here. Anybody, what would you say next move?
King B6.
King B6.
Or A6.
Or A6. Stalemate. Yeah. Anybody want to suggest anything else?
King C6.
King C6. Draw. Stalemate. Oh, sorry, I take the ball.
No.
There's a bishop on it.
Oh, sorry, stalemate. Sorry, stalemate. I thought the bishop was here. Sorry, stalemate. Okay, without playing all the variations here, the important thing in this position is if it's black to play, and the rule is if black can cover the queening square, and the bishop isn't the same colour as the queening square, then it's draw. So another good example. And I've actually had this position when I was about 14 in the game. I was black, and earlier on, I had a knight, and I think white had a pawn, and I sacrificed my knight for a pawn to end up with this position, knowing it was drawn. My opponent didn't realise it was drawn, and my opponent just, I think I was in some sort of tournament, insisted on playing on, And after about half an hour of just moving the bishop around and everything else, I went to get the arbiter to say, look, this is a draw. And my opponent was very angry. He didn't think he should have lost this, which is not true. I played into this position knowing it was a draw. So this is why you need to know some of these rules. I just want to show, though, it's important to realise here that if it was white to move, black is no longer covering the queening square. So black's move, next move, he can't go here, can't go here, can't go here. So he has to go from here or here. White can now push the pawn and win. Okay. The other thing I just want to point out is if black had the other colour bishop here, then he does win. So black could go here, white could go here. Black can't go to one of these two squares, and now white can push the pawn. Okay? So it's important to know when you've got a rook pawn whether your bishop covers the square or not. Okay, so just using that, I thought I would try and put something a little more difficult on. And what I want to show you now is this position. We put the king here, and we put the king here. Okay. So at first glance, what we have here is a similar position to before. We have a rook pawn that needs to get to h8. We have a bishop, which is the wrong colour, and we have a king that is nearer to that square than, let's say, this king. You would have thought that that king can reach that. You know, white is going to move his bishop away. The king will either take the pawn or get there. So you would have thought this is a drawn position. However, white can actually win this position. And so my challenge is to the any of you, but what is the next move? And what I won't do is I won't show you. Oh, sorry. What do you think the move is?
Bishop to g2.
Right. If bishop to g2, king takes bishop.
Then h4, h5, h6, h7, and h8.
Correct. So that's not the right one. Bishop g2. I'm going to go. Well, we'll just play one example out. Okay. I'm going to go
King e3.
King e3. What do you want to do next?
h4.
I'm going to go here. What do you want to do next?
h5. Draw.
f3. Bishop f3.
Now, do you remember what I said before?
Yes, in the corner.
That when I get in the corner, I can just go dot, 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 dot. It's draw. Okay? So, let's go back to this position. Now, I won't play any other things out unless you come up with the right move. What do you want?
G4. Bishop.
Bishop g4. No, that doesn't work because of the same solution.
Bishop F1.
That doesn't work either. I'll just go there and eventually get the pawn. You just have to accept my word rather than play all of these one moves out. So, have you seen the position before, Paul?
No.
Okay.
I'm looking at bishop d6.
Nearly. Anybody else want to suggest a move?
F5. Bishop f5.
It doesn't work. We can play. We might take too long if we go through every one of these that are proof that it doesn't work. Martin wants to have a go.
Well, I was going to have a go, but I just wanted to point out that it's not a king move, because then black can just go to g1 and pick up the pawn.
You have to move bishop.
So you've got, I'm just eliminating any king moves. Yeah.
Can you see?
So it's
And the
not,
pawns can't move, so it's a bishop move.
it has to be a bishop move.
Bishop G4.
Tried that.
Try that.
Yeah.
Bishop E6.
Yeah, that's
Tried
right.
that.
Well, shall we try bishop e6
Yeah, it's the same.
and see what happens? Okay. Next move.
G4, H4. King D4.
Right, I'll tell you what, I think I'm going to go back and I'm going to... Right, sorry, you said bishop e6.
Bishop e6.
I'm going to go king e3. How's that?
Yeah, king e3. Okay.
Right, next one.
H4.
H4.
King f1.
I'm going to go here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Next move.
H5.
G4.
Bishop g4.
No, don't worry about the bishop.
Just get.
You could just put
Let's
the
draw.
pawn because then you have the queen.
Strong.
Draw again. Got to stop the king getting to the corner.
Hang on, maybe bishop G8.
Yeah, play H.
It won't help.
Or
will it?
bishop
Yeah.
Sorry,
G8.
no, sorry, that's
Or
not help.
play pawn H7 and then G8.
H7. No.
Well, I'm just going to give one example. I'm just going to go.
Yeah. Draw.
Okay. So, who wants to be put out of misery or gets the right
Bishop
move?
I've got
f5.
an idea.
Right, I'll show you.
No, just draw again.
Well, it's black to move.
Yeah, but once the king
Okay,
gets
white to
Oh,
move.
sorry.
White plays
Going in and out.
bishop d7. Okay? And I'll give you a line. If I now go
King e3.
E3.
king f3. Okay. And let's say white goes h4. Now, if I go king f4, it's a mistake because white can go
King d4.
king here. I've got to go backwards and pawn queens. Okay? So I go king e4.
Yeah.
And you saw that in the previous one. And now, just to show you the example, h5, king e5, h6, king f6. Bishop e8.
That's
Okay, so a little bit tricky, but I thought I had to try and put something in there for some of the others.
Very good.
But it's an interesting one.
So
By the way, there's a
bishop
story
D7.
about the composer who said he stumped Spassky and Petrosian with it.
So bishop d7 is the only winning move, correct? Followed by that line.
Yeah.
Very good.
But you see the concept of sometimes using the bishop in combination with the pawn to keep the king away. Yeah. Okay. Right. Now we're going to use, so we're going to go to lesson 5. We're going to talk about something called ZUGZWANG. ZUGZWANG is a German word. Anybody speak German? Okay. So it's German for compulsion to move or has to move. So I'm going to put this on. And again, I'm going to build slowly, and I'm going to put some positions up that will hopefully, be a little bit difficult. Okay. So this is sort of a ZUGZWANG, okay, and I'll explain why in a minute. Why it's on sort of. But the key thing here is if it's white to move, white loses his pawn. So obviously if white goes here, black takes the pawn. If white goes anywhere, in fact, black takes the pawn. So white would rather not move, but he has to. And I think that's the idea of ZUGZWANG, is you have to move, but you don't really want to move. So, but because you have to move, you have to make a losing move. And in this position, white loses the pawn. So if white goes here, the king takes the pawn, and then what we get is the same example as before, where black will end up shepherding the pawn home. Agreed? Okay, so black wins. However, let me just put this here, and here, here. Where should white go? Should white go there? King Where do you want to go?
Either king E2 or king D2.
Yeah, one wins and one draws.
Yes.
One loses, one draws, yeah.
King D2.
So
No, king D2.
Daniel wants to go for D2.
He gets the opposition.
So black goes in here, takes the opposition, and that's drawn. Okay? For the same sort of reason as before. Hold on.
Let's go the opposition. Let's win.
No? Right. Where's white going to move now? If white goes down here,
Yeah, comes forward.
black takes the opposition and wins. So the important thing here is black moves to here.
Another.
And king to here
Wins.
by shepherding.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think were you okay on that one? Anyway, I think it wins that anyway, isn't it? I'm just trying to work out whether or not.
Well, white could draw by
No, but king E2.
King two.
going to king E2 in the original position.
King E2.
Did I mess that one up?
Yeah.
So let's go back to there. So here, oh that was
king
it,
E2.
yeah. So king doesn't want to go to D2, he wants to go to E2. King takes the pawn,
Now king D2.
now king D2.
If he advances the pawn, he has to check, which means it's a draw.
Okay, so pawn here, check. King to
E2.
No.
D2, yeah. I think we're- And again, don't go here, because the king comes in and takes the opposition. You go here, here or here,
Just face it.
and you take the opposition. And to make headway, it's again a check on the 7th, so it's a draw. Okay, so I thought it was interesting because it's a sort of a ZUGZWANG position, because white loses his pawn, but white with correct play can get a draw. Right, so if you just bear with me a second, I'm now going to use that position because it comes from a game between two grandmasters, and I'm going to show this position here. And this is where ZUGZWANG really starts to, you start to understand why it's important. King. That's the right position. Is that the right position, everyone? Yep, okay. Okay, this is by two grandmasters, Popov versus Dankov. It's white to play. Anybody want to suggest? So, first of all, you can see the similarity. If white moves his king, he loses his pawn. And he doesn't want to do that. So, you would think then that the obvious moves are moving this pawn or moving one of these pawns. Anybody want to suggest what they would go with?
G4.
Paul wants to go G4. Anybody want to go A5? Yeah. Thank you. I wanted somebody to go A5. If you go A5, let's see how this plays out. Right. Black plays
H5.
a very good move, which is H5. So you can see what happens now. Suddenly, white is starting to run out of moves. White can't move this pawn, otherwise it gets taken. So let's say white moves this pawn. Black moves
Either pawn.
either pawn, let's say there. White might, I don't know, go there.
Yeah.
Black would now go here,
G6, correct.
and you can see what happens. White wins the pawns, eventually the king moves, white has some extra moves, sorry, black has the extra moves, I'll just prove it. White would have to, let's say, go here, black takes that, white goes here, black goes here, white moves away and loses its pawn.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because there are other pawns on the board, the previous draw doesn't work.
Exactly, exactly.
Black can snaffle the white pawn.
Yeah, because what would happen is, yeah, black could go over that side or go over that side and win. So let's have another look at that. So you can see that the important thing about this position is that trying to get to a position of ZUGZWANG by making the other player run out of moves. So
That's
I've got something wrong.
two points on the
Is that it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so we proved that that move A5 doesn't work and white loses. So what's the right move for white?
G4. G4.
Correct. G4. And so we're just going to give an example here of the way this might play out.
G6.
You know, G6, right. Probably pick a more complex one because there's a tricky move here for white now.
I think it's G5, isn't it?
Yes, well done. G5. If black takes the pawn, we'll just show one variation. G4 blocks the pawns,
Yeah.
and we have the same position over here.
And now black has to move.
Yeah. So white.
No, it's one black to move.
Oh, sorry, black to move. Anybody want to pick a move for black? Go on.
A5.
A5.
A4, sorry.
A4 or A6?
A6.
A6.
A5.
A5.
Black's in trouble.
You see black's run out of moves. And so this is a ZUGZWANG position. Black is now in ZUGZWANG. So just to show you how it works, black king moves away, white takes the pawn, and white, if black decides to go for this pawn, white will queen that pawn. Okay? Okay, so that's ZUGZWANG. I'm just looking at the time here. And so I'm not going to play the final ZUGZWANG position. I'm going to move on to the final two diagrams. I'm going to look at what's called the bad bishop. So, okay, that's the position. Okay, so in this position, you can see that there are what's called a good bishop and a bad bishop. Now the reason why we're saying they're a good bishop, firstly they're both the same colour, so you might wonder why one's good and one's bad. Well basically this bishop has got a lot more freedom to move. It's attacking this pawn, it's attacking this pawn. This bishop is a bit of a bad bishop because all it can do is defend either of these two pawns. Can't really move. So, although you might think this is a drawn position, white can actually win this. Now, the key thing is, again looking at that idea of ZUGZWANG, is it's white to move. And white would really like it if it was black to move, because then if the bishop moves, if you look at what black can do, if the bishop moves here or here, white would win in that corner. If the king moves, white goes in here and then will win. one of the other pawns. Okay, so the clue as to what white needs to do is he needs to get back to this position. That'll be giving the game away here, but with black to move. So, what would you say, Paul?
I think bishop to d1 or bishop to h1.
I think, yeah, they work. I'll just go
It's going
with,
to take 2 moves to get back to f3.
yeah, so I'm going to go G2, bishop G2. Okay, so,
Now we can play bishop d7.
so black will play bishop D7,
Now we play bishop h1.
bishop H1, bishop B8,
Now bishop f3.
bishop F3, and you can see we've reached the same position as before, but now black to move. And now the position is lost, because if the king moves away, I take the pawn, the bishop moves here, I take the pawn. Is everybody okay with that being a win for white, or shall we go through one of the lines? Do you think?
If it was white to play,
Yeah.
is white able to win?
So
Yeah, we just showed.
when we had it before, right?
It's white to play.
White went here, black went here, white went here, black goes here, white goes here, and I get back to the same position, and it's black to play.
Can't white go to bishop d5 though?
It would get taken by the
Then
pawn.
pawn takes, then wouldn't the pawn,
I think
C and D pawns be able to work together to queen?
No. That's black to move.
Why would you do that when it's
Yeah,
black
that's
to move?
Bishop D5,
Well, no, that's what
No,
it's
that's
for, sure.
pawn takes.
Yeah, pawn takes.
Pawn takes.
You're not going to stop the pawn.
Interesting. I don't know what this is.
No bishop takes a4.
Yeah, bishop takes a4 looks good.
If bishop takes A4, doesn't C5?
I think c6 wins anyway, isn't it? Payne was not.
No, yeah.
C5 doesn't
I'm going to go bishop takes here.
Go c6.
I'm going to go C5. I'm going to go
Bishop, yeah.
bit there.
Blackwards.
Pawn here.
Bishop d7.
Bishop there.
Yeah.
d10.
Pawn here. Pawn here. And it's blocked. So good idea. Yeah, but it doesn't quite work. Okay. So I think what we'll do. Yes, Steve.
You can use the same principle of losing a move, making your opponent's move by triangulating the king as well.
Yes.
King G3. King
If
triangulates.
they can triangulate as well.
Oh,
G3, G6.
Can we?
Report from so back
could we have a look at that one?
Yes.
Well, now it's doesn't work. I can't try and get it at the moment because you'll lose the H5 pawn.
Okay.
Pawn on c6.
Thank you.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So do you want to say your move, Steve?
Sorry?
Do you want to say your move? It's G3?
Yeah, I was thinking King G3, King H3, King H4 to triangulate, but and James has correctly pointed out that black can triangulate his king.
So you move on to King G7, King A7, as long as you go back to H6, but the white king goes back to
See, I was thinking of King H, no, I was in that position, I was thinking King H3, King H6. If King H6, then King H4 achieves white's aim, but of course, King goes to H7, not H6.
Or G16.
And so we haven't swapped
Yeah,
from white's move to black's move.
and as long as white
So I think what you're pointing out, Steve, is that idea of triangulation to change the move order is another key concept and maybe a lesson for another day.
Yeah.
But we
It's quite common to
effectively
triangulate the
achieved,
king.
it didn't quite draw out a triangle.
Yeah.
I'm just going to tell a quick story because I was quite pleased with this. I was in a junior chess tournament. I was about 15. I thought I had one position. It was something like this. And I went home because it was back in the days where you came back the next day and played on the game. And I read in my Endgame book, I'm sure this is not cheating, you're allowed to do this. I read about triangulation. I went back the next day, I won the game, and over the tournament. So, yes, so I was quite pleased. So his name was Dean Hill, if he's watching. So it's Dave Hill. So
But Dave used to play Rooks and Guildford.
right, better be careful on that night. So I might take the game out one day. Right, it's 8:15. We're going to move to the final position. And I have to admit here that this is a lesson I did not know until a few weeks ago, and you'll understand why. So you see the two players down at the bottom, Payne versus Shepley. In this very room, about 3-4 weeks ago, I was playing Julian Shepley, and I was white. I played the London system. Julian seemed to know what he was doing, but I was quite pleased to get to this position. I thought that I had, a chance of a draw. So, and we'll see. Okay, so we reach this position. I'm white.
Is the pawn on H3?
Sorry, thank you. And so my thought process here was that I was aware that you probably know that you tend to give a value to a bishop and a knight of 3. They're generally considered equal, probably the bishop slightly better, but it depends on the position. And when the position is a little bit more open, like this, this bishop can move to so many squares compared to the knight, the bishop is better. So I knew that Julian had this bishop. I had the knight, which I thought was central. I thought Julian will not take my knight off because he just gives away his good bishop. And so I thought, I might get a draw here against Julian. I would have been very pleased with that. And so the question I'm posing here is, should black play bishop takes knight?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Well, Julian played bishop takes knight. And I was quite surprised because I immediately took back with this pawn.
Oh, the pawn.
However, and we'll show what happens if you take back with the king. And so again, I'm thinking to myself, I've got a passed pawn. And what a passed pawn is, for those of you who don't know, is it's a pawn with no, in this case, a white pawn with no black pawn either side of it. So basically, it could go all the way to queen unless the king stops it. So I thought I was going to, right now, I thought, I think I'm going to win. Yeah. Anybody who thinks I'm going to lose?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, so this was a lesson for me, and so basically, we'll just show some moves. Yeah. Basically, the king comes across. I think I went here.
King across again.
Do you think it needs to come across, or can it stop moving now?
Because then C5 comes from.
Go king d5,
And yes, maybe.
reflect the white king.
Yeah. So I think I played this move. Black played this move.
Yeah.
Okay. So
It's over.
So I take this. Black takes back. Now I realise that he's going to queen this, so I'm going to go here. Black goes here, white goes here, black goes here, maybe.
Yeah, he doesn't need to do that.
No, sorry, king here, yeah. And you can see what happens.
Yeah.
That.
Your king's offside.
Sorry, I think that was that there. Yeah, I pushed that. So if white takes the pawn, black takes this and eats up the rest of the pawns and wins. And so the lesson there is what's called the outside pawn. Although Julian didn't have an outside pass pawn, he was able to create one, and his outside pass pawn was much stronger than my central inside pawn. Just out of interest, Paul, I think we can go back to what happens.
You play king takes, I think it's still losing.
King takes the draw, surely.
Well, I plugged it into an engine when I got home, thinking, how did I lose this game? And I think this is lost as well.
I think so.
I'm just
Slightly
going to.
better.
If I take the king,
Yeah.
I think we probably get
King F6.
king f6.
D4.
Now I'd like to get over here, but I can't.
You play D4.
D4,
D4.
king e4.
No, D4.
Sorry, D4.
Because then if the black never goes to the third rank, or goes to try and attack the pawns, you can play C4 with the threat of D5 drain your own last pawn. So you attack.
Can I go
Restrict the black king from going after the base of the pawn chain. I guess you can probably
Can't he
C6.
play B5 now?
I was thinking this might be the move.
Yeah.
Because how about this?
Well, now you play C4 and you won't be drawing.
I don't think so. For the same reason. You
No,
can
you
get a
can play
pass pawn,
D5.
the king goes behind the pass pawn, so you can't force it with that hand, and then he pushes G4. Same thing.
Okay, so is this the wrong move?
Yeah, I think you might be right. Maybe B5 is the safe option.
So,
It's
sorry,
B5. B5.
D5.
Yeah.
And B3. King E6. C4. You're okay? I think.
Yeah.
Now you can play King F5, can you? Yeah. You might be winning. Pawn takes pawn. No, H4. Yeah, pawn takes pawn. No. That's it. H4 doesn't win, you just play King F4. King takes. Now you're definitely not losing. You might be winning. If anything. See, once you took with the pawn and it was isolated, it was very weak.
Yeah, you're right.
King, I think this taking with the king gave you a much better chance.
All right, I might go through that because I did think that there was a winning way, but there you go. So thank you for
That
that.
might get your pawns up, but if you leave them with a rook pawn, then you only have to get your king in front of it, and it's all over. It's a draw.
A4 is interesting as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
So do you want to play any more moves or?
A4 for black.
I think you
Yeah.
just take A4.
No, sorry, H4.
A4 for white.
I just finished, but it's black
Yeah.
to move.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
White's just taken. So what's black going to play? A4?
A4 is interesting, actually.
C5?
B5? Not B5.
C5.
C5?
Pawn takes.
Well then the king comes in here and eats that pawn. So I think probably you've got to take
You've
pawn.
got to take it.
Yeah.
And you
Pawn
both
takes.
and you both
Just a minute, just a minute.
No,
just a
take
minute.
the other way.
Takes.
The other way.
He takes C4.
Yeah.
Ah,
Yeah?
pawn takes, pawn takes. Pawn here, pawn here, pawn here, pawn here.
You're in the
Pawn
square
here.
with the king there.
Pawn equals queen. We're getting very.
Who gets the queen first? Is
But
it
he can move his king back just to cut off
the
that.
king to F3 instead of running.
It's tricky.
Tricky. Let's leave it at tricky. I think, let's just say the lesson where I thought I was going to win, I think it shows that at the very least.
Can we go back to this ZUGZWANG? This is very interesting, this one.
Yeah, okay, well, just, we've got some time. We'll go back to, we're just going to go back to the final ZUGZWANG position, which is got Stone versus Waddingham.
White's got a move that wins here, you reckon?
Yeah.
Really? White's lost to me.
Okay, so we'll make this the final position. It'll take 5-10 minutes to go through this one. So, in the game, White played B4 and lost.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just show how that worked. White played B4, not realising.
King G7.
Well, basically, Black is about to set up ZUGZWANG with the move out of B5, A5, King G2, King E4,
King takes pawn.
King takes pawn,
King F4.
King F4, yeah.
King H3.
King H3.
Classic ZUGZWANG position.
And now we have the ZUGZWANG sort of position from before, where White moves away, Black takes the pawn
And wins.
and wins with the Queen. What would you want to say?
You have the pawns like this with 1 point in front. There's actually 2 pawns in front.
Sorry. Yeah, but Black moved the pawn. Oh, I'm sorry, I saw what you mean. That was there, wasn't it? No, it might make a difference.
No, it
But
doesn't make a difference.
yeah.
It doesn't make a difference, because if he moves AC, it's just take it.
Okay, so we're just going to go back to the start. Thanks for pointing that out. So basically, that was the starting position for the pawns. King, king.
Is it C4?
So, well, I think the clue, going back to before, is to just try and allow Black to run out of moves. So the suggested move is B3.
Yeah.
Which one's fair?
Okay, I'll just give you one example. Black plays B5,
Yeah.
A5, King G2, King E4, King takes H2. This looks very similar to before, doesn't it?
King F4.
King F4,
King H3.
King H3,
And now B4.
and now B4.
No, it's white.
White.
Sorry,
B4.
sorry, B4.
With. Yeah.
And Black is now in ZUGZWANG.
And
Sorry.
the only reason why that worked is that White can move his pawn 2 squares, which is wrong, but by moving it 1, you get the move back.
He gets the extra move,
Yeah.
yes.
If you weren't in that second rank, 4th rank position, you were, for example, 1 square further up, this wouldn't work.
Correct, yeah. And that was just for those juniors in the audience. That was 2 juniors in the both age 14. One of them who didn't know about ZUGZWANG and one who did know about ZUGZWANG. They were in the national under 14 national championship, and the one who knew the endgame was the one who won. So basically quite technical, I think, for a 14 years old. But if you want to play for England one day, maybe, then this is what happens. Okay, so we've introduced some basic terms like opposition, ZUGZWANG, wrong-colored bishops. There's quite a lot more lessons that we could go through in Endgames. But you know, maybe we want to look at some other coaching ideas, maybe go through some openings. I would point out though that maybe one thing that you can do is you can spend too much time on openings. It's good to look at this, and it's good to look at your tactics, your middle game. So, you know, once you've found an opening that you're comfortable with, maybe stick with that for a while. Maybe don't try all the latest traps. My advice would be, learn some end games, and who knows, you might come up against Julian Shepley in the club championship, and you might not lose like I did. And you might get a draw. All right, thank you very much.
Very good, thank you very much.